Good evening, everybody, from a very wet Swindon. Hope everybody's okay. Before we start, I'd just like to say hello to Alan, Swindon Cheshire Reds. I did say I met him on Saturday, and I did promise that I'd say hello to him. So, hiya, Alan. Right, couple of announcements. Bromley and Accrington tickets go on sale tomorrow morning. There is quite a few windows for the Bromley ones, as you could imagine, but because it's a new ground for a lot of us, and it's a smaller ground, so there's a lot of windows. I think it's 410 points that you need to have for the first phase, and then it goes down. So just check on the website if you need to. And that's that for me. Let's bring Vic on. I think he's got some SAS news.
Hi, Chris.
Hello. You okay?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm looking forward to the next hour very much indeed. Mr. Ferry is waiting.
Very much.
Yeah,
Mr.
he's with us.
Ferry's in the background.
He is in the building. Bromley on the 29th of December, of course, just after Christmas, before New Year. The seats on SAS go on sale tomorrow as well. Now, it departs West Swindon at 7 a.m. on the day. The county ground 7:30 a.m. And don't forget, it's a 12:30 kickoff. Members £21, non-members £23. And SAS ask, please do not book without a valid match ticket. No refunds if you book on the coach and then can't get a ticket because of the restrictions that Chris has said. So they go on sale tomorrow, but please make sure you've got a match ticket before you book on the coach. And news of the women's team yesterday, they drew 4 apiece against Munnerfield. Sounds quite a game. Annie Colston got a couple. Libby Davis got a couple as well. They remain second in their league. And good luck to the under-18s in the FA Youth Cup tomorrow at Gillingham. So let's hope they can repeat the performance of last year and progress on through to the competition's later stages. So we wish them well.
We don't know if it's going to be streamed live, but we'll try and find out before the end of the show tonight. If not, keep your eye on social media tomorrow and see how the lads get on.
And one other thing, Big John Stevens collared me at Accrington. He sent me a message saying, will I show a dragon because of my Welsh heritage? Well, that's the only dragon I can find. There he is. He's now going to sit down, and that's the end of that. So there we are.
Right, let's get Mr. Ferry on and we can start. Hello.
Hello.
How you doing, guys? All right?
All right, how are you?
Good. You're both looking gorgeous.
And you, my dear. Right, I'm going to leave you. And if you've got any questions for Simon or comments, please leave them in the box on Facebook or Twitter, and we'll get back to you. I'll see you later.
See you, Chris.
See you, Chris. Thanks very much indeed. Mr. Ferry, it's a great pleasure to see you. Thank you very much indeed for joining us. I know it was a bit fraught for you last week, but we're delighted that you're here with us now. So how are you? I'm
good, mate. Feelings mutual. Always great to see you, Vic. One of the guys I had a lot of time for when I was doing there, so pleasure to do this for you, mate. I am all right, busy. Literally got in the house about an hour ago, so this is a one night off. My 2 boys are 13 and 11 now, so this is the one night of the week that they're not training or playing, so it's the night I get to relax a bit.
Well, let's talk about what you're doing at the minute. Michael has already texted in and said, what a legend. So there you are, already the comments coming in. Let's talk about what you're doing at the minute. East Kilbride. My goodness me, you're flying, aren't you?
Yeah, we're doing well. It's me and one of my best mates that do it together. He's the manager, I'm the assistant manager. We're in a thing called the Lowland League up here, so it'll be equivalent to the National League down there. Sit top of the league, won the league last year, and last week we beat Ayr United, who are 3 divisions above us. We beat Airdrie this year, who are 3 divisions above us. We beat Cove, who are 2 divisions above us, and so yeah, and we play a really good brand of football. I'm sure you'd enjoy watching it. So I'm loving it just now. Tried the management a couple of years ago, wasn't it for me? Much better suited to being the assistant.
Well, yeah. I was going to say about Broomfield later on, but you've had a taste of management. I mean, just to tell you, I was watching your game with Ayr at a bus stop, waiting for a bus to take me home last week from Exeter. So it was a pleasure to watch it at a bus stop. So well done. It was a great game.
Can't believe a millionaire like you needs to get a bus, Vic. What happened? Where was the Rolls Royce? Where was the Rolls Royce in the garage?
I had to flog it. Couldn't flog the garage. Right. Let's go back then to the start of your career. Celtic. How did that come about?
So I played for a club in Dundee, because I'm not from Glasgow, called Dundee Celtic Boys. So just a local boys club full of Celtic supporters, dads that ran the team, and then Dundee came and scouted us for a young age, 10, 11 maybe, and then we played Celtic one week, and I played really well. And there was a scout in Dundee from Celtic, an old Irish guy who was at the time 86. He was an incredible character, and he had guys like Mark Fotheringham, who played with Fulham, Ross Wallace, who went on to play with Burnley, Michael Gardine, who played with Ross County, teams like that up here. And he approached me and my dad and just said, "We've watched you. There's reports came back from Glasgow. I've been asked to then watch you for your boys club. We think you've got a wee chance. Would you be interested in coming in?" So, Celtic fan growing up, dropped Dundee in 2 minutes, told him I wouldn't be back, took a chance with Celtic. And I was in it for about 3 months in Dundee before Sean would be the guy that would decide whether you were good enough to go through to Glasgow, because he had such a good reputation for the players that he produced. He wouldn't have put you through there until he thought you were ready. So I went through it, maybe 12, went through, and just luckily enough, Tommy Burns, who was the head of youth at that time, watched the game. And I'll never forget, he came over as after the game, I asked my name, and he said, "You play like a man." And I was only about 3 foot too, so I don't know how he's seen that, but maybe in terms of how I kind of, my attitude and how I spoke and the enthusiasm I had for the game. And he always taken a liking for us then and just progressed through the Celtic, got moved up a year very quickly. And at the age of 15 was offered a 4-year contract at Celtic, so left school at 15 and left my mum and dad and moved through to Glasgow.
How is it joining a club like Celtic? Because it's a massive club, clearly. How is it?
Oh, it's amazing, but it's like your dreams come true, innit? Like, I had mates at 16. Most of my mates left school at 16. They were all going to get trades, joiners, plumbers. They're all still doing that now. And for me to leave and go and sign for Celtic was, I didn't think there'd been nothing else in life that I'd rather have done. And then when you get there, Vic, it's coming from a place like Dundee, just moving to a city of Glasgow hits you straight away. But I loved it, mate. I love big, busy places, full of personalities, full of characters. And the best thing about us was you go in as an under 16 and you're sharing dressing rooms with under 18s and also the reserves. So you need to fight for your life. You know, these guys will do everything they can to intimidate you, to take the piss out of you in a good way, but it's a test and you need to stand up for yourself. And I was just lucky, and not just me, but our team were kind of full of personalities and characters. So we went right in against them. We'd be turning their lights out in their dressing room and firing balls and flinging boots at them, and that would be a constant thing, constant carry on. But the one thing I loved, and which I've kind of always tried to do in my life, is it was a constant carry on off the pitch. But then as soon as we got on the pitch, training pitch or match pitch, Tommy Burns would make you realise, like, this is time to work now. Carry on's finished, and we're here to win because we're the biggest club in Scotland. We're expected to win all the time. And you need to train a certain way, you need to play a certain way in order to do that. So I had a great balance in terms of my upbringing, in terms of having a laugh and a carry on, but then also a serious side as well.
Yeah. Sorry about the interference, by the way, when I'm talking for some reason. I don't know what that is, but I do apologise about that. Lots of people have tried to stop me talking in the past, but there we go. Messages coming in.
Isn't it Clem that's put that on your voice? Like he's trying to ban your voice.
May well be. This is from Daniel. Simon, do you remember holding my hand when I was mascot for my 30th? Home to Cheltenham, 1-1-0.
It's incredible. I do remember it. I think I've still got the picture on my Facebook. I do remember kissing him after it as well, and he was a terrible kisser. He used far too much tongue, but no, I do remember that day. Strange that a 30-year-old man wanted me to hold his hand walking out, but I can assure you I enjoyed that more than he did.
Right. Does Simon fancy their chances against Brecon in the playoffs if East Kilbride win the league? Now, this is from Craig, who lives in Scotland, is a Swindon fan, comes down from Scotland to watch the town at home and away. Do you fancy your chances?
Good man, Craig. The thing is with these playoffs, Vic, it's so tough because you could play so well all year, win the league, and like last year, again, it's no making excuses. In the lead up to these playoff games, you could get a couple of injuries to your best players, and you're going into the most important game of your season without two of your better players. Also, last year, like League Two, we finished earlier than League Two, so we went 3 weeks without a game before we played the team in League Two, which isn't ideal preparation. So there's a lot of things that come into it. If we're going into these games with a fully fit squad, then I would definitely, like you say, we back ourselves against teams like Ayr United and Airdrie. So we'd definitely be backing ourselves against and Brecon, who have done really well. I know their manager as well, Patrick Craig, who played up here. It'll be tough, but obviously it's the journey comes in it, the travel, staying overnight. boys not really done that at this level, so you don't know how they're going to react to that. But like I say, I think if we're at our best, then I'd fancy us to get up this year.
And Craig says Simon will be more than welcome at the Scottish Swindon Town Official Supporters Club Christmas party, which will be taking place in either Kilkentilloch or Stirling this year. We'll let you know.
Right, well, Kilkentilloch's literally 5 minutes down the road for me, so give me a date and I'll be there.
Excellent, marvellous. Right, Celtic. Now, you had your injury problems there, didn't you?
Yeah. So again, I stayed a 4 year. I went to Celtic on a 3 year contract, and like I said, I was a year younger than everyone else because I'd played a year up. And within a year, I was training with the first team every day. Incredible. Like I said, Tommy Burns, a guy who passed away sadly now, but he just took a real liking to me and kind of wanted me to progress really quickly. And on my 17th birthday, I signed a 3 year deal at 15, and then on my 17th birthday, I signed a new 4 year deal. I remember sitting with Tommy Burns and Gordon Stratton, basically saying like, "You're our plans for the future. We're going to be in the first team, training every day with the first team. With you, like moving into the first team dressing room." And then we played Dundee United in a reserve game one day. Barry Robson, who was the Aberdeen manager recently, absolutely smashed us, snapped my ankle in two. And after that came 2.5 years of just constant trying to get back, breaking down, trying to get back, breaking down. 4 operations later, went down to St John's Wood in London. The guy basically told us this would be my last chance, this operation. If it didn't work, then I would need to retire and get a job at, I think I was 19 at that time. Good bit of that story was, again, just to give you an idea, the guy Tommy Burns was. I remember coming back to London, obviously devastated, phoned my mum, she was in tears. Next day I meet Tommy at Celtic Park, and he's a Celtic legend, like everyone in Celtic loves him. He played like 500 times for the first team, and he asked how I was with the news, and I said, "Oh, I'll be fine, like I'll go and get a job, I'm not that bothered." Like, and he says the one thing that's worrying is my mum, she's devastated. That night I get back to my digs, and my mum phones us. My mum worked in a bank in like Lockheed High Street, she was a teller, and our manager came through and went, "Tommy Burns is on the phone for you," which she couldn't believe. And she went through, and Tommy Burns was just saying to her, "Regardless of what happens with Simon, don't worry about him. I'm going to look after him. If he can't play, I'll put him through his coaching badge. I'll give him a coaching job here." So didn't work, and like that just kind of tells you the type of guy he was. So he's a guy I've got a lot of time for. I do believe if he'd stayed alive that my career would have went differently. But again, you never really know that. But like I say, just a great role model that I had in my life at that time.
Sure, absolutely. Obviously, injuries are tough for footballers to get over. I mean, how did you deal with it?
Drinking, Vic. That's what I dealt with. I was, I actually never really drank. I wasn't one of the kids that would go to drink all the time. I was obsessed with football, and even when I first went into Celtic, like all the boys, because they were all older than me, they would all drink, and I wouldn't really drink. And then you get your injury. I got my own flat at 18. Obviously, with that, I got a good deal at 17, so I had enough money to go and get my own flat. And just one of my pals ended up moving into us. The worst thing that happened was he got an injury. So kind of 3 or 4 times a week we'd set up, just playing the PlayStation, getting drunk, or either going out in Glasgow, and before you know it becomes a vicious circle. It probably doesn't help with your recovery in terms of your injury. So they were tough times. Luckily I had my pal staying with us at the time who was going through a similar sort of thing, but there was times where you're really worried obviously about your career and where your life was going, so you would kind of mask that pain with nights out and enjoying yourself.
Yeah, it's an incredible struggle to go through when you're that young, though, isn't it? I mean, how did you come out of that spiral, if you like?
Actually, I don't know if I told it. I've told maybe a couple of people this, but Celtic got me a therapist. I remember a guy used to come up to my house once a week, and he would sit with us on the couch because I left home at such a young age, kind of fending for yourself. 2 minutes, Vic, I'm going to stop this washing machine. Can you hear that?
Yeah, I can hear the washing machine. It's on a spin cycle, I think, at the minute. So
nice. That's my thumbs I'm washing, Vic. Sorry, mate.
Nice mirror in the background.
So I spoke to a guy came up to the house, and I spoke to him. He was a good help. And then getting fit, I just got fit. I got myself back fit, and that helped obviously massively, because like every day you're sitting in the gym. The worst thing about Lennoxtown at Celtic, if anyone knows it, is the gym looks directly at the training pitches. So when you're injured and you're sitting on the bike every day and you're looking at everyone else training, It's soul destroying. And then guys who were below me when I first got injured are now training the first team, making their debuts, scoring goals, playing the Champions League, and you were ahead of them before you got injured. So mentally, it's really tough. But again, I always think adversity as a young kid kind of makes you a stronger person as you get older. But getting fit, that helped massively. When I did get fit, I got kind of pushed straight back into the first team, which was a surprise. Gordon Strachan put us in, I was on the bench maybe another 15 times after that. And then probably the move to Swindon, mate. I was training one day. Tony Mowbray came in at this point. He took me away to Australia for pre-season, and he came up to me in the dressing room one day and he says to me, you just feel like carry on. It's like, you need to take it seriously. Like, you're with Celtic first team. He's like, you act like a kid. I was obviously feeling wanted to laugh all the time. And he said, I'm going to put you on loan. And I was like, right. I just thought like a Scottish team, someone quite local. And then Mark Venus was pals with Peter Sirtliff. Came in one day at Lennoxtown, pulled us in the office and says, get your bags packed, you're going to Swindon tomorrow.
And did you have any idea where Swindon was?
Not a fucking clue. Not a fucking clue. And I couldn't drive. I was like, you know I can't drive. And they said it's fine. Ben Hutchison's going as well, and he's going on loan as well. So Celtic were playing Arsenal in the Champions League the next night. So me and Ben drove. We were obviously training with the first team at the time. So you think you're going to maybe be on the bench or in the squad for Arsenal, and then you're told, no, the two of you are getting in a car and you're driving to Swindon. So me and Ben drove down, whatever it is, 8 hours, listening to the Celtic Arsenal game on the radio. Pulled up at a wee hotel. It was like serviced apartments just outside Swindon. Never forget it. The next morning we woke up, as we were coming to the car, Jonathan Douglas walked out to his car. He must have just signed there as well. Never said a word to us, blanked us, obviously didn't know who we were. And then Danny Wilson came, drove in, took us in for a coffee, sat us down, had a chat, and then we went to training. And it was basically like, get on with it.
Interesting, because Jonathan Douglas and you had quite a partnership, didn't you, in that midfield?
So again, if anyone that knows Jonathan Douglas, it takes him a bit of time. It takes you a bit of time, to get in with him. He doesn't let anyone in. You know, he needs to work you out before he decides whether he's going to be pals with you or not. And at first he probably hated me because, like I say, full enthusiasm, full of nonsense, constantly talking loud. I can remember a couple of the first days he was like staring over at us, and then on the training pitch, only trained. It was a Thursday. Went down. It was maybe a Wednesday because Celtic had played in the Champions League, so we got to training on a Thursday. Danny Wilson told us actually that morning that we wouldn't be starting on the Saturday. He said you'd be on the bench and you'll maybe come on. They just beat Wolves in the cup. Am I right on penalties? I only know that because Callum Kennedy wouldn't have shut up about scoring one of the penalties. And then we train on the Thursday, train on the Friday, and Danny Wilson comes to me and says, "You've trained that well in the 2 days that I'm going to start you on Saturday," which I couldn't believe. Like, so nervous, like couldn't sleep that night. Went out, me and Jonathan Douglas centre mid, and football wise we just clicked straight away. It was like I knew exactly what he was doing, he knew exactly what I was doing. It was a brilliant learning for me because he basically just told me where to go. You know, for 90 minutes he would instruct me on the pitch. And I always said the best thing he ever said is if you're in trouble on the pitch, just pass the ball to me and I'll deal with it. Which was incredible for me as a young kid. And Dougie was one of these guys that he wouldn't give you praise often, but every now and again after a game he would come up to us and grab us and he'd say, "It's an absolute pleasure to play with you, kid." And I remember I used to get goosebumps when Dougie would say that to us. So, an absolute warrior. I loved playing with him. But again, he was just so intelligent. He could just read what I was going to do. He was always in the right place. He could header it. He could tackle. He could pass. He could shoot. So he was a massive part of me doing well my first year at Swindon, definitely.
Yeah, what was your first impression of the County? If I remember right, you was Southend against on your debut, if I remember rightly.
It was.
And I sort of sat there thinking, well, he's quite a player, this boy from Scotland. He's all right. So what were your first impressions of the County ground?
I loved it straight away. Like you say, coming for being out for 2.5 years, then maybe playing a handful of reserve games at a half-empty stadium in Airdrie to come and play at the county ground. I think it was a lovely summer's day. I think there was like 11 or 12,000 there. And you just think to yourself, I remember walking out the tunnel and thinking, right, now you're a football player, right, this is proper football. It's up to you to go and take your opportunity. And like you said, I found it quite easy, to be honest. Like, not trying to sound big-headed or that, but I came for like Neil Lennon and Alan Thompson and Paul Lambert and Chris Sutton, where these guys who played Premier League football, Champions League football, it was like training was so fast, so intense, and they were on you all the time. It was like didn't get a second to breathe. To obviously, no, didn't get me wrong, the standard was really good, but that Celtic team at that time was like an elite standard, an elite mentality. So I found it quite easy. Like I thought, fuck, I'm enjoying this, man. I get a wee bit more time than I do up in Scotland in terms of training. But the one thing I remember for the game is, I don't know if you know this, but Alan McCormick was playing centre midfield for Southend.
Oh yes, he was. That's right.
And Marek Maka on a pitch, which was brilliant for us when he was eventually on our team, but he was a horrible bastard on the pitch. So now my first game was just me and him arguing constantly. He was just fucking, he's trying to get in my head, like, he shit, leave him on it. And I was saying, I'm fucking 21 years old, my debut, and I'm popping the ball around you. So me and him just argued for 90 minutes. That's one thing I remember for the debut. But I remember the tannoy going up, and I probably only got it because it was my debut. I got a man of the match, so couldn't have went any better. And then Billy Painter straight away came over to us, and he's like, right, son, we're out the night, we're out in Old Town tonight. So went out that night, and that was the thing I remember. There was probably about 15 or 16 of us that went out that night, and I remember thinking, oh, I've never seen this before in a team. Like, we usually get 3 or 4 boys going out, but it was like the team spirit was incredible. Like 12, 13 boys out in Old Town, and just waking up on the Sunday morning, just thinking, fucking, this is what I've dreamed of all my life. I've been a professional football player, doing well. So I had the debut couldn't have went any better.
Yeah, it's tremendous. This is from Kevin. Simon, I hope you're keeping well. I hope you found your shorts. Great memories, great player. What a celebration on the pitch when we won the league at the County Ground 5-0 versus Port Vale. And what we could do with a few results like that now. We'll get to that day eventually, but it was a fabulous way to win a title, that, wasn't it? I mean, you don't get a lot better than that, does it?
No, it doesn't. I mean, I actually think, and if I remember right, we started the game quite slow. Port Vale were an alright team, weren't they? And then, in typical fashion, I could be wrong, but I'm sure, like a lot of times, the game was kind of finely balanced, and Matty sticks one in the top corner for about 30 yards. I think the second goal, Cads, that triangle we had, Matty plays Cads plays me. I flick the ball with a back heel through to Paul Benson, who runs through and chips the goalie to make it 2-0, and then after that, it was kind of party time. But the best thing about that day was how hard that full season was. Like, hardest year of my life football wise, in terms of mentally and physically, and then also the fact that a couple of weeks before I'd made an arse up with the whole Aldershot stuff, but I was going out on the Saturday night before the game on the Tuesday.
Yes.
You're thinking, God, like, could we actually lose this league? Is there a chance we might not go up? So for them to go and win the title against Port Vale, just because of the accumulation of the full year, and then that sort of instant towards the end, and an amazing feeling. Then obviously the gaffer singing "Dancing in the Moonlight" the next day at the county ground. I brought my family down for that as well, so it was a great weekend, great memories. The thing about that, the county let us come casual for it, and I think we were meeting at say 2 o'clock the next day, and I text Joe De Vera saying I've just had a text from the gaffer, mate, we've got to wear suits. So we're all casual. Joe De Vera turns up with his Swindon club suit on. So he spent the full day with his Swindon club suit on, and we had our casual gear on. So like, even that team, similar to the first team that I met, like, team spirit was incredible. That's my favourite thing about my time at Swindon. Like, I'm still pally with so many of the players now. Still speak to them. So don't know what it was that we kind of always had an incredible team spirit while we were there.
Having said that, of course, there was the playoffs before that, wasn't there, in League One?
Yeah.
Under Danny Wilson. You know, there are certain teams in my watching career of nearly 60 years at Swindon that should have gone up. That is a team that should have gone up.
Definitely should have went up, but I agree 100%. Should have went up. So devastated. Like, I genuinely thought, I think we all thought like we were going to do it. Like I say, the team spirit was so good that year. But again, like, that's what I'm talking about with East Kilbride. Circumstances come in it. I think the worst thing that ever happened to us was that Leeds had spoke to Billy before the season had ended. Billy was such a massive player for us. Billy and Charlie were like unplayable at times. It's probably similar to Matty a couple of years later. Like, if games were finally balanced, Charlie or Billy would produce something that would win you a game of football. So I don't think Billy played the first leg of the Charlton game. I don't think he played the second leg, did he? Or maybe he was half fit. I didn't think he was fully fit for that Wembley game either. I'm trying to think if there was anyone else that missed it. Around about that time, Gordon Greer got sent off, didn't he, in the semi-final?
Yeah.
And for me, for as good as I know, me and Dougie played well that year. JP McGovern was good. Wardy was good when he came in. Sheen's done well. Kevin Manco was decent. I think our three main players that year were Gordon Greer, Billy Painter, and Charlie Austin. And if you're going into that final without one of them, another one maybe who knows he's leaving half fit. And Charlie, who had speculation about him going as well. I mean, there was a lot of pressure put on Charlie's shoulders for that final as well. I just think if that wasn't as intense as it was, he probably scores that one when he goes through at the end. But obviously the bobble doesn't help as well. But yeah, I agree. But again, we played in some great teams. I played in some great teams my time at Swindon. But that one in the first year would be my favourite. I mean, it just had everything in the team. We could bully teams, we could play, we had pace, we had experience, we had youth. It was a great mix of characters, and the team spirit that year was incredible. You're generally going out and 15, 16 boys were all out together. So, no, definitely what if. And then you look at clubs that go on and kind of cement themselves in the playoffs. I genuinely have a feeling that if we'd have went up, obviously Billy would have stayed and Charlie would have stayed, and we'd have added a couple. But Gordon would have stayed then. You could have had a club that was kind of in the championships for a number of years.
Danny Ward, of course.
Yeah.
Another really impressive loan signing. And what a player he was. Incredible.
Do you know the thing as well is, I think Swindon was the best thing that ever happened to Wardy. He was so quiet when he first came. So quiet for a couple of weeks. And I remember Danny Wilson saying to me, like, come on, try and involve Wardy more. Try and get him involved in the banter. So we took him out for a pint, and then ended up that he loved a pint. Ended up me and him at the same hotel. We'd hang about together most nights, and he turned into a proper character, Wardy. Because he never started great. I think if you remember, I think it took him a while to get in the team. But again, once his personality came out, and that's the great thing about going on loan. Once his personality came out, like he genuinely was unstoppable. I remember when we played Huddersfield away. Again, it was a shit game. There wasn't much in it, and Wardy's produced, I think, maybe 1 or 2 goals where he was incredible. And then he goes on a run where he is genuinely unplayable. And again, not the genius of Danny Wilson, but what Danny Wilson done really well was Wardy came as a striker. I think he was adamant that he was going to play as a striker, but quickly realised that he wasn't going to get ahead of Billy and Charlie. So I think Danny Wilson played him left wing in a couple of reserve games, and he really took off there and put him in there for the first team. And like I say, he was one of the guys on his day. He was unplayable at that level. And again, he went from a shy guy to the guy who came in at the end of the season party, spraying everyone with a fire extinguisher. And I always say that Swindon team at that time just done that to people. It just brought out people's personalities. Guys like Sean Morrison, when I first went, quiet youth team player. When I left, he was spinning around. When he left, he was spinning in the county ground bar with just his pants on and his tie wrapped around his head. People might think that's childish and clownish, but I've no doubt that that's why that team done so well. It was 15 maniacs who would die for each other on a football pitch. And again, probably my favourite year doing at Swindon.
How did your permanent move come about? Because, of course, you were on loan initially. Then,
so Danny Wilson just pulled me one day at training. In fact, it was maybe in the December because Ben was going back. And he just said, like, I think you fit in so well with the team and how we play personality-wise on the pitch. We're going to try and make it permanent in the summer. What would your thoughts be? And I never even had to think about it. I said, absolutely. And he said, like, what if other teams try and come in for you? And I was like, no, I love it here. But if you come in for me, this is where I'll go. So after he said that, there's times where maybe you have 2 or 3 bad games and you're thinking, oh no, he's not going to want me now. But end of season, after the last game, he pulled us at the end of season awards and says, we're going to try and get you for Celtic in the summer. And we want to try and get your pal Caddis as well. What's your thoughts? And I was like, oh, he'd be brilliant here, like you love him. What a player he is. So Cads texts me. Cads had played maybe 10 or 12 games for Celtic's first team. He wasn't too sure at first because it was League One. And I said to him, no, listen, mate, we'll not be League One for long. We'll be in the Championship next year. And then obviously Celtic signed it. We'll go to America, and I think Celtic and Swindon were paying hardball over a fee. I think it ended up something like 400 grand, probably 375 grand for Cads and 25 grand for me. But then it eventually got done, and again, me and Cads drove down and signed, and we got a serviced apartment together, and then got relegated the next year. So he was he was absolutely fuming with me for that.
I mean, Paul Caddis is the only player to win 2 league titles at Swindon, captain 2 sides to win 2 league titles. I think sometimes people underestimate his place in Swindon Town history. It's pretty good, isn't it?
Ah, he's a hero, Cads. He's a hero. Such a good football player. I know Matty's went on and played for Newcastle, and Charlie's obviously went on and done what he's done, but no doubt in my mind, Paul Caddis is the best player I played with at Swindon. Football was always so easy for him. Like, I genuinely mean this. If he'd actually lived like a professional football player, he could have played in the Premier League for me, but didn't have the greatest of diets, didn't particularly enjoy running outside of football. But one of these guys that you could, like, similar to Jonathan Douglas, you give him the ball in any situation on the pitch and he'll deal with it. And again, that's the definition of a leader for me. I'd never ever once went on a pitch with Paul Caddis and never seen him hiding, regardless how he was playing. He'd always take the ball. He'd always lead by example in terms of that. And just like a great guy as well. Like people obviously then I see behind the scenes how much he takes to do with like new signings and trying to help people settle in. Like I couldn't be fucked in that. Do you know what I mean? Taking people to see new houses and I'll speak to them 100% and try and get them involved in the banter. But Cads would go kind of above and beyond to help people settle in. So I couldn't speak highly enough of him, and hopefully he does well at Hereford.
Sure. What did you say to Abika? This is from Anthony after the Yeovil game when you both went clean through and he didn't square it to you and he missed. We were both in the relegation zone, if my memory is correct. Now, Kevin has said the swear jar's getting a bit full, Simon.
Is there no swearing on this?
Well,
sorry, but can't help myself. I'm sorry, but I'll try and stop.
Okay. So what did you say to John Abika without using colourful language, do you think?
Do you know what? John O'Beak is probably one of the nicest men you can ever meet in your life. Don't know if you know John. Have you had him on there?
No, we haven't had him on yet. He went to play for a team in yellow, which is just up the road from Swindon.
Right. He's now the first team coach at Motherwell up here, so I bump into him every now and again. John he's like a devout Christian, isn't he? So like he would if he'd seen me with that pass, I'd expect that John would have passed it. He's just that type of guy. But do you know what? See that year, Vic, that would have been one of many arguments after a game. Like that year was not fun. It was just constant chaos. Obviously, there was still big characters in the dressing room, and most Saturdays, like people would be rolling about with each other or blaming each other. It wasn't a nice place to be. But again, all part of it, innit? Like you can't have it all. I think that was probably the 1 year I had at Swindon where I genuinely didn't enjoy it, and there was thoughts of kind of let's go back up the road. This isn't for me. I don't think Danny Wilson should have got sacked if I'm being completely honest. Again, maybe for the outside when you look at results, you think that it's maybe time to go, but within the dressing room, there was never a feeling that the players had turned on Danny. We had so much respect for him and time for him. Really, really liked him. Like when you're doing it, it only takes one result to kind of maybe kickstart it, but maybe we're on a bad run. I think it was Southampton away when he got sacked, which again is a tough game. Like if you're judging somebody, you're going to sack him on Southampton away, then I think it's quite harsh. But then the minute Paul Hart walked in for me, I just I could see it. The writing was on the wall. I just didn't get a good feel for him. Swindon's a place where I think if you come and other people might think differently. If you come and you think you're above yourself, and then it's not the place for you. Like every player that I played with, they're all really humble. Manager Danny Wilson that had managed in the Premier League, really humble. I just felt Paul Hart thought he was doing us a favour by being there. I think he maybe saved a couple of teams in the Premier League and stuff like that, but it just wasn't a good fit. And like I say, after for the moment he walked in, it was chaos most Saturdays, to be honest here.
Yeah, I had 1 or 2 run-ins myself with him, I have to say. The course of that season, the end of that season. I mean, what went wrong? Because that was a side. Obviously, Gordon Greer had left.
Yeah.
What was it? Do you think, if you can put your finger on something, what was it that meant that season went so badly wrong?
It's 100% recruitment, Vic. Like when I agreed to come back, I think Gordy was still here. It was a big reason why I wanted to come back because Gordon was brilliant with me as well. Proper captain, like such an important part of the team, helped me settle in so well. Like a young guy coming down there, like I spoke about with Cads, after Gordy was that guy when you first came. And then Billy was, it's not just on the pitch with these two, both of them were incredible on the pitch, but Billy was the main guy in the dressing room. Billy held everyone together. Billy brought everyone together. Like I say, there was no cliques in the dressing room. He wouldn't allow it. And when he left, it just seemed quite fragmented. Obviously, Prutz came in. I get on really well with Prutz now, actually, because obviously he presents and we message each other back and forth because he's really good at what he does. And it wasn't even like Prutz was a bad guy. It was just that him, Dave Lucas, and Dougie were really good pals. Alan Sheehan as well. They had obviously played at Leeds together, so they hung about together quite a lot, which is only natural. Whereas the year before, that wasn't happening. Like I say, everyone was hanging about together. And then obviously some boys maybe resented that. A couple of the older boys and maybe Danny Wilson playing Prutz. I was obviously on the bench. But again, I wouldn't have made a problem with that because I was still quite a young boy. I wasn't at the stage of my career where I'd be questioning decisions for managers. And then obviously we signed De Seve, which was a nightmare. Not want to be too harsh, but he was hopeless. I think he was offside more than he was onside. Big Vinny Pericard. Again, it wasn't the fact that they weren't great on the pitch. They just again kept themselves to themselves. And like I said, the previous season, what was so good, there was so many characters. I think Big Sean had left to go. He left that season, or maybe it was the season after. Big player in the dressing room. So 100%, I think recruitment was massive, and there just wasn't a good feel in the dressing room. And again, I think you could be as good as you want in terms of on the pitch, but if it's not right off the pitch, then you're going to struggle.
Sure. So a change in manager then, Danny, who I had a lot of respect for, I have to say, because he was always front up after a game. But that season goes, Paul Bowden's in charge temporarily, and then an appointment comes in. How shocked were you by that appointment? An
appointment that changed my life. I remember lying in my bedroom in Dundee, my mum's house, and Cal Kennedy texted us, and I think I'd been out the night before, so I can't remember. Was it a Monday? Maybe a Monday morning he got announced. So I was probably the weekend.
Right, yeah.
So I was lying in my bed, and my phone's pinging, and it's Cal Kennedy saying, "Go and turn Sky Sports News on. Di Canio's their new manager." And I was like, what? No way, Cal Di Canio. Like, again, growing up Celtic fan, you're thinking, oh my God, unbelievable. Like, what a legend, do you know what I mean? And I just remember thinking, like, oh, this will be total football. Like, because he didn't, looking for him at the outside, he didn't look like he was the best professional in the world. You know, he was always getting sent off, quite a fiery character. He would go missing. So you're thinking, probably just be like, not laugh, but he'd probably be a decent guy, and it'll be like 5-a-side, and with the scissor kick volleys that he done, and we'll play total football. Like, I'm buzzing for this, can't wait. And then obviously the reality the first day when you get in and he's standing like an army sergeant, like back straight, pair of shorts on, socks rolled down to his ankles, legs shaved, pair of football boots on, whistle in his hand, tightest t-shirt you've ever seen, so you can see his full body, pecs, six-pack, and he's just standing, shaking his head at us. And I could remember my heart was pounding, and he looked at us, and me, Matt, Richie and Cads are obviously our pals, and he went, "First three guys I've seen look like three little piggies." He's like, "I'm really, really worried looking at you. I'm going to tell you that now. I watched you a lot last season. Nowhere near fit enough." He says, "This will be the hardest year of your life, lads. I'm going to tell you this now. You can opt out now, or you can work. You can you can stay in and promise to work hard." He says, "The first thing we're going to do is weigh you." And obviously, we'd never had weights done in football before. Like, that was a new thing, and I was thinking, "Wait this?" Like, no, man. So I jump on the scales, and he goes off his nut. He's like, "What? 5'8", 5'9", 78 kilo." He's like, "This cannot be possible." He's like, "You're a fat little piggy," he kept calling us. And he's like, "You cannot represent me looking like this." He said, "No one in my team will play on the pitch for me looking like this. You are a representation of me." No. He's like, you need to do extra than everyone else. You can't eat like anyone else. He said, "I'm going to put out your plate for your lunch. After the boys finish training, you're going to do more." And I was like, oh, no. So I'm like, the training's going to be like an hour and a half, and then I'll do maybe another 20 minutes. Training was 2.5 hours long. And I would stay out for another 45 minutes with Claudio, the fitness coach. And then I'd get to lunch. Everyone was allowed to eat certain things. I wasn't allowed to touch, like, sauces, no ice in my drink, no diluting juice in my drink. Basically, just plain pasta with a bit of chicken. That's all I was allowed. And I'd need to do like a food diary, bring it in every day, monitor my food. He hated me at first. He hated, as he said, I had terrible body language. I was a terrible professional. Didn't train properly. And then obviously came to us and he was like, "Nah, you're not going to play for me." He's like, "I'm going to sign a guy, Oliver Risser. He's much better than you." I remember him saying that. He says, "I'm going to be honest, he's much better than you, bigger, stronger, better footballer." He says, "It's better for your agent to get you out of here." So I phoned my agent and I was like, "I need to go somewhere." Like, he doesn't want me here. And my agent phoned about. He's like, "Si, nobody wants you. You're just going to need to buckle up and get on with it, mate." And I was like, "Oh, for God's sake." So slowly worked him back round, and then we played a pre-season friendly. I think it was actually the last pre-season friendly before the season started, and he asked me to go on with about 2 minutes to go, and I said, "No, I'm not going on. Like, you're obviously taking the piss out of us here. I'm not going on." And in the dressing room or training the next day, he went absolutely mental at me, right in my face in front of everyone. He's like, "You're done with me." He says, "It'll be a miracle, take a miracle for you to ever play for me." He says, "You were 4th choice centre midfield, you're now 6th choice." He says, "The 2 youth team centre midfielders are now ahead of you." And I was like, "Oh no, like my football career's done. It's completely done." I don't know if you remember it. First 5 or 6 games, season, never even on the pitch. And then the thing is, you're sitting on the bench, and funny because Risser played the first game, and I'm thinking to myself, I don't think he's that good. I think I could get ahead of him. I think there's still some hope left for me. And the ball fought. I don't know if you remember it. With about 5 minutes to go, the ball comes from the edge of the box. He takes a touch on his chest, and he volleys this thing right in the top corner. And you go for thinking, I've maybe got a wee chance of getting back in here to. Look, he just went and had a ball into the top corner. The Canny was shouting after the game that he loves him, what a sign and all that. And I'm thinking, oh no. So, I think we played Dagenham and Redbridge away. Alberto got sent off, if you remember it. And Paul Caddis came to me on the way to the game. I don't know if this was maybe 5th or 6th game of the season. And he went, "The gaffer says you've been training really well. He's maybe changing his mind towards you. He might put you on tonight. If we're getting beat, doesn't put us on again." So I'm like, "The Cads, he's just messing with my head here. There's no way he's putting me." He doesn't like us. And that was a Tuesday night, I think. He pulled us in on the Thursday and he says, "Okay, fat boy, tomorrow Saturday you play against Oxford." He says, "This is your one last opportunity. You either take it or you don't." I've never ever been so nervous for a game of football in my life. So nervous playing Oxford at home. We played. I think that was the first game that he played. We played really well under him, but we got beat. And I'm also thinking it's good that I've played because I thought he was going to get a sack. Genuinely thought he was going to get a sack. So I was thinking it's good that I've played here, so that the new manager's seen us play quite well. But he's going to come in. And then we played Rotherham on the TV, didn't we, the next week? And he pulled Matt Ritchie. And he pulled Matt Ritchie on Thursday, and he says to him, "Please, Matty, if you score on the TV, run to me and hug me." And Matty came into us in the dressing room. He's like, "Oh no, lad, you'll never believe what he's just said to me." And we're like, "What is it?" And he goes, "If I score, I've got to run to him and hug him." And I was like, "No, mate, you can't," because we all hated him. Like, even Matty, we all hated him. At first, like, he was the worst guy in the world. Like, and we were like, "Matty, you said you hated him. You can't go and run to him, mate. Like, you're a complete sellout if you do this." And I hated him at the time. I was like, "Matty, please don't do it. Do not run to him. Do not run to him, please." Again, I don't know if he's an evil genius, Decano, how he knows Matty's going to score on the game. I'm playing again. Obviously, the ball comes to Matty. I'm sure it's at the back post. He knocks it in, and I actually remember him looking at me thinking, "You should be delighted he scored the goal." And he's going, "Oh no!" He hears over to the manager. I don't know if you remember it.
Yeah.
They hug each other, and I think after he hugged him, we're like, "You traitor, Matty! You absolute traitor!" Alan Connell scores again. I don't know if we'll win or we draw the game, but again, you start to see signs that we're improving. And see, to be fair, after that game, not that I'm saying he became a nice guy, but he just mellowed maybe one notch. And then after that, I mean, like, it was just, we were so fit, we were flying, like.
Because there were rumours that you didn't have a day off for about 10 weeks, is that right?
100%. 10 weeks it must have been. I think somebody counted 75 days, 76 days. Alan Connell was like he was like a wee sweetie wife, man. He would have everything written down. So I think Alan Connell came to us one day, the wee stato, and he's like, "Yeah, that's 76 days now, lads. We've not had a day off." But again, because you've seen it start to work, and like I remember looking down at my body and going like, I've never ever seen my body look like that. Like, this is incredible. And then obviously how fit you felt on the pitch, and he started to become a wee bit more likeable. He'd maybe share a couple of stories about his time playing. And then you slowly started to like him. And like I say, like that year, that's easily the best football I've ever played in my career. I've never played in a team that's so fit and so organised, and genuinely going onto the pitch just thinking, doesn't really matter what the other team's going to do, we're going to win here. We're so well drilled. Like, off the ball was incredible. Like, you knew what area of the pitch to be in every time the ball moved to a certain area of the pitch. You knew where you had to be. You knew where you had to be when you had the ball. You knew where you had to be when the other team had the ball. It was like clockwork. And obviously his enthusiasm every day. There's like the Sundays where other managers, you want to come in, you know that you can get away with just kind of going through the motions and getting through it. He was like, he was on you, mate. He never missed a trick. If you missed a cone in the warm up, he seen it. It was incredible what he had. And then slowly, kind of, me and him became pals through kind of fashion, music, and he would kind of tell stories about Tommy Burns, again, the guy that I spoke about earlier at Celtic, and he spoke about the dark days of me being a fat piggy. But there was still kind of run-ins. I remember once he called as a Rottweiler at home and a Chihuahua away from home, which I never really liked. But we could kind of get past it. And again, like the thing that he had, it was a great balance of screaming at you 1 minute, and then after a game he'd come up to you and he'd slap you in the face and he'd say he loves you and you're the best midfielder in the league, and it would make you feel like a 6'5", it make you feel like $1 million. So he had that great balance between hating him but then loving him again. So I still say it, like, he's a genius in terms of coaching, absolute genius, and even management to a certain extent in terms of his kind of psychological, how he tests you psychologically, and he completely changed my life, like, in terms of how I thought about my style and how I thought about living. And didn't get me wrong, when he left, I went back to my old ways, but it wasn't until I hit rock bottom, and I've said this before, I was walking up for a night shift in Springburn at 6 in the morning, I could have burst into tears, and everything kind of he said to me came back to us, like, you blame everyone else, you've always got an excuse, you always take the easy way out. And I was like, and I was at rock bottom when he changed his. I'm at rock bottom again. I'm going to use these words to try and kind of get back on track. And obviously, still having kitchens, working in the Royal Mail at the time. And I was like, I'm going to do something in my life, and started the podcast and just put everything into it. So I've got a lot.
Yeah, we're going to get onto that success in a minute. But I watched the other day the highlights of Swindon 4, Huddersfield 1 in the FA Cup, which I maintain is one of my most favourite Swindon games ever. And you scored in it, and it was a fabulous afternoon, wasn't it? They were a league higher, or was it league higher than you? But you absolutely ripped them to bits. They scored first, if I remember rightly. But what a game that was!
Right, they were a league higher than us, but they hadn't been beat in something like 57 games or something, right?
Yeah.
But they were top. I think they were top of League One. We were obviously in League Two, and that was the best thing about him. Like, at that time in football, we'd never seen a manager, a coach that would tell you exactly what Huddersfield were going to do, how they were going to play, who they were going to try and get the ball, and what he would do when the ball went in, and this is what we were going to do to counter that. And I even remember Aston Villa. I think we nearly beat Wigan. We beat the amount of teams higher up we beat just through his coaching was incredible. But the Huddersfield one, again, this is where his genius comes in, and he done it at Stoke as well. He came in the dressing room, and this was he liked this when he says, "Lads, don't be nervous." He says, "They're League One with a League One manager. You're League Two players with a Champions League manager, so you'll be fine." He done that at Stoke as well with Tony Pulis, which was incredible. But that was that's my favourite ever Swindon game. Like,
yeah, it's brilliant.
I think I set up 3 goals and scored 1. And it was just, again, against a right good team, and we battered them. Like, I think 4-1 kind of flattered them. And that was the good thing about him, mate. He wasn't surprised, Whereas usually if you get a giant kill and you come in and the manager's like, "Oh, I can't believe," he just expected it for you. You know, and that transferred through the players. Like, we would never go on the pitch regardless of who we're playing and feel inferior. He just had this way of making you feel like we're more prepared than them. He says, "I believe in your individual ability. If we bring both together, then we can beat anyone." And we were so fit as well. But that's what I'm saying. But like, usually if you're playing against teams higher up, you're thinking, "God, they're really fit." But there wasn't a team in the country that could outrun us. And I think there's such a massive thing in football. If you can run. and we could certainly do that under him. And but being so well organised, and again, some of the goals were scored as well. It's not just to say we're a fit team. Like, I even think some of the Huddersfield goals were. Rafa scores a really good goal where I got the byline and cut it. Again, that had been worked on. Rafa was playing left wing that day. If somebody gets to the byline, Rafa, instead of run at the back post, arc your run so that you come to the penalty spot for a cutback. And again, it's what I try and do in my coaching. Now you're trying to replicate things on a Tuesday and Thursday, you're doing on a Saturday. And because of that, I mean, some of the results. I mean, I remember the Wigan one. I think Wigan were the FA Cup holders at the time, weren't they?
Yes. Well, you were the last team to beat them in the FA Cup for about 3 or 4 seasons.
Right.
Because and they scored first. If you remember, they got a penalty, didn't they? And then Alan Connell scored. And then Matt Ritchie stroke Paul Benson got the winner. What a day that was.
Brilliant. Again, but that was all down to his kind of game plan and the way he got us to kind of the way he got us as individuals to think. So all credit goes to him. Like it was very little. It was down to our ability, believe me.
Disappointing Wembley though, of course, in the Johnson's lane. That was a day really when a lot of Swindon fans turned up, and you know, Wembley of 69 has always been in people's memories of 1990, 92, 93. But that was a disappointment, wasn't it?
Yeah. Again, circumstances. I'm sure Rister played centre back, scored an own goal, didn't he? Alan McCormick missed it, if I'm right in saying that, or was it Flinty? Again,
Paul Caddis wasn't fit, was he? Paul Caddis missed it as well, missed the game.
Who played right back? Was it Nath Dobson?
Yes, I think so, if memory serves.
Yeah. Again, this is where I'm talking about circumstances in these one-off games. You know, again, especially when you're playing against a team a league above. Again, I know we've done that against Huddersfield, but I think if he'd went through that Huddersfield team, it would have been Caddis, McCormick, Flint, Ritchie, Ferry, Jonathan Smith, Devita. They've been a full team, you know. So we played the Chesterfield. Two of our big players, Maka and Cad. And I think it was maybe a bit of a non-event that game, wasn't it? Oliver Risser scores the own goal, but he was raging that day. He was, I want to go to Wembley. That was always his thing. Because he'd never been to Wembley as a player. So his big thing was, I want to go to Wembley, lads, and I want to win at Wembley. And I don't know if you remember, he was so superstitious. So we played Barnet in the semi-final of that trophy, which is in December. So he had his hat, scarf, gloves and jacket on in the semi-final. We'll come to play the final in like January, February, March, April maybe. And because he'd wore the hat, scarf and gloves in December, he wore it again on the side of the pitch. In April, if you look at pictures, I'm 90% sure he'd have had the same thing on. And I remember looking over him and he was going that nuts with that. I thought he's going to have a stroke on the side of that pitch. He was absolute beetroot. And again, good and bad things about that was, I think after it, he kind of realised that if we were going to go to the next level, that you had to get rid of a few and get a few in. And I think after that, I'm right in saying Oliver went to. Did he go to Stevenage on loan?
Yeah.
So I think that was a good thing, just the fact that we played that team a year above, and he'd seen that the squad probably wasn't strong enough in terms of if 2 or 3 were missing, the ones that were coming in weren't as good. So I always say Chinese farming, you never know if it's good or bad. So it turned out to be a good thing, because maybe he would have went into that next season with a similar type of squad, because he maybe thought because we done so well in League 2, he would have stuck with that same squad. But I think that day, because he said like there was 1 or 2 that I really seen, that was probably the day where he realised he had to get a stronger squad going into League 1.
Yeah, a memory here from Paul, which many people will remember this. Northampton, Paolo Di Canio jumping into the crowd. Awesome. I mean, I was doing the commentary on that game, and then we suddenly went, what's he doing? And he suddenly started sprinting. I mean, what was the players' reaction to that?
Do you know what? Again, I was raging on that day, because I could be wrong if you want to check the team, but I'm sure he never played me. I'm sure that was kind of the Chihuahua time where he was saying, you know, it's good away for home as you are for home, and he never played us, and I was raging. We were getting beat, and I was, you're thinking, fucking, that shows you how important I am in the team. And I remember thinking, and he put me on in the game. We go down to 10 men, don't we?
Ooh, you're testing my memory now, but I'll
go
along with you.
Yeah. But I remember Maka picks the ball up, goes on a mad, mazy run, plays it out wide, continues his run. Am I right in saying this? The ball gets played over and he volleys it in. Maka scores, doesn't he?
Yeah.
And again, this is Rafa Devita at his best. Rafa Devita up the manager's arse. The manager's doing a heroic run to come and get the players, and Rafa's on the bench, or Rafa's playing right there on the bench, and he's running beside him trying to hug him on the way there. Have a day off, Rafa. Leave him alone for 2 minutes. But when he jumps on us, I'll never forget it. He's across from me. We're all together, and he's looking across. And I remember looking at him thinking, "You are a psychopath." It was like it could have been anyone standing across him, and he wouldn't even have realised who it was. He was just in this zone where he was so happy, and his eyes were bulging in this. Thinking like, you're a psychopath, but what a guy, man! Like, who else does that? Do you know what I mean? And they were there was always something happening with him. He always found a way to make it about himself, but I quite liked it. My father-in-law, it's actually funny. He loved that time. He's a massive Celtic fan, so he loved that time. He would come down quite a bit, and I remember he used to say to me, I used to say, "What do you think of the game?" And then he got, honestly, Si, I spend the majority of the time just watching the carry on the side of the pitch. I actually didn't really watch what's happening on the pitch. I think he was that mesmerising, wasn't he? Like, to watch on the side, how many times he would batter that dugout, man.
Well, we used to have a sweepstake as to what minute he would hit the plexiglass. You know, that was how it was.
And what would the average time be? How can you remember, like, roughly what time it would usually, the first one would happen?
Yeah, about 15, 20 minutes. That would be the first time he would do it. And then he'd turn around and then he'd go like this to the rest of the people in the dugout. You know, that's what he would do. And it was extraordinary.
That dugout, I remember again, it was quite early on in my time under him. I think we were playing Carlisle away, and I'd started playing well. Like I said, I'd got in a team, and he took me off, and I was raging when he took us off. Raging, so I've kind of stormed off with a face that could tell him that he was raging, and walked by him, sat at the dugout at Carlisle, and he came and he sat down, he turned around, and he goes, why are you upset? And I've started to speak. He went, "You were shit." And I went, I didn't think it. He said, "But why are you so sad? You go back to the Simon Ferry seat next week at Swindon." He used to call the Simon Ferry seat, the seat right next to the window at the dugout, because even if I was on the bench, I'd just go in a huff and sit at the side of the... So he called that the Simon Ferry seat. "Why are you sad? You go back to the Simon Ferry seat next week." I remember one time at Swindon, we played Portsmouth as well. Remember he hooked James Collins after 24 minutes?
Yeah.
So yeah, he's getting Alan Connell warm, and I'm on the bench at Portsmouth. And James Collins was my mate. Me and him were close. So I'm raging again. I'm on the bench, and he turns around to me and he looks. James Collins are having a nightmare. And he goes like that, "You and your friends Collins, yous are crazy." And I went, what have I got to do with James Collins having a nightmare? But like you said, he would just turn around and he would say like random things to you. You'd think, what does that mean? And he kept going at me in the Portsmouth game. "You're crazy." But I had done nothing wrong. I was just sitting on the bench. That's what I'm saying, mate. You had an unbelievable way of just getting in your head, man. It was incredible.
Unbelievable. Well, time is running out, but we want to carry on a bit more because it's so great talking to you. We might have to ask you back, actually, Simon, if that's all right with you at some point in the future.
You'd be up in an hour. I could go a bit longer if you want, mate. It's up to you.
We'll go for a bit longer. Yeah, that's okay. I really wanted to talk about your career after football. I mean, you went to Portsmouth. You played there. You played at Dundee. Peterhead, of course. You played up there. You're a manager of Broomhill. Is that right? For a while. When Open Goal took over Broomhill. Now, how did Open Goal start? What brought you into that career? Because it's massive. It's been massive, hasn't it?
It's done quite well, mate. So, like I said, like after I left the Canio, just kind of went back to my old ways, mate. Like went to Portsmouth, was probably 3 or 4 times a week. My back was a bit knackered, injured all the time. But again, I was never injured under him. Do you know what I mean? I don't think I was injured once the full time he was there, because I was training properly, living properly. Went to Portsmouth, my back was knackered, out all the time. Missus hated it. So she never left Swindon, like we love Swindon. She never left. Went to Portsmouth, got broken into. She moved up the road, left me on my own, which is probably the worst thing that could ever happen. Like I say, out all the time. And at the end of the year, I was like, I can't continue to live like this. So I need to go back up the road. My mate got the Dundee job, Paul Hartley. Phoned me and asked to go there, which is my hometown team. All my pals support Dundee. Again, for a guy like me, the worst thing that could happen. Couldn't kind of deal with the pressure. Try to be good for them and eating rubbish, fat. Had my second kid and never slept. Like my lifestyle was just all over the place. And a year into that, I went to them and just said, "Can you just pay us up?" And I was going to go and get a job. Played with Peter. My other mate was the Peterhead manager. He said, "I'll take you, but I can only get you £300 a week, part time." And I went for like playing in the playoffs to get the championship. We Swindon 2 years later to delivering kitchens and playing part time with Peterhead, and just had like a proper but I wouldn't say it was a proper breakdown, mate, but just like had no idea where my life was going. I couldn't imagine myself doing this for the next 50 years. And like I said, I was walking up the road for a particularly bad night shift one morning at 6 a.m. and just kind of broke down on the way up the road. And I just said to myself, I need to do something else. So my pal, he worked in marketing, he got in touch, and he was saying he was hating his job, and I was obviously telling him all my problems as well. And he's like, "Well, why don't we try and do something with football?" And I had no clue. I was like, "Well, what do you mean?" And he said, "I think podcasts are going to be quite big." I'd never heard of what a podcast was, and I said, "Well, what would it entail?" And he said, "Well, just why don't we do you interviewing football players?" He says, "I think you've got the personality for it. I'll help you, obviously. He does the questions, and he says, you just tweak them however you want them. We'll do 5-year best pals. We'll stick them on the internet. If it goes well, we'll crack on. If it doesn't, then we'll just sack it and we'll go back to our shitty lives." So I interviewed 5 of my mates, put them out, and just kind of went mad after that. Everyone seemed to really enjoy them. And it's just went from strength to strength. Then obviously we kind of came up with an idea of a weekly podcast, and then a cooking show for leading into the weekend. And it's probably been the best decision I've ever taken in my life. Like I said, I'm a big believer in everything happens for a reason, so probably had to go through all that to get to where I am now. And obviously really grateful for the kind of life that I've got now. I know that, everyone thinks you're loaded for it, but you'll know as well with podcasts you're not loaded. But just the fact that I get to spend so much time with my kids, and I could call that a job, and then obviously get to coach, which I love. That's my real kind of love in life is coaching. I love it. Like, nothing makes me happier on a Tuesday, Thursday being on a training pitch. So it's a great balance that I've got to my life now. And that is, like I say, the best thing that's happened to us.
Well, what about the coaching side of it? Because you had a spell as a manager.
Yeah.
Do you want to be a manager, or are you quite happy doing what you do?
Never again, mate. Never again. I could see why the candidate was the way he was, mate. I can see why he was so angry, mate. Like, I was an angry guy. I don't want to be that type of guy, mate. Like, you spend all your years being a football player, being so dedicated and taking over your life. The last thing I wanted to do was for that to happen for another 15 years. Like, it takes over your life as a manager. It takes over your life like you would never believe, mate. There's nothing else you can think of during the day. There's nothing else you can think of at night. It's just a constant thought of, what can I do better? How can we get better? And it never ends. Like I said, I don't want my life to be like that. It started affecting my relationship with my missus, my kids. And like I'm quite privileged with the life that I've got now. I didn't want to ruin that with being a football manager. So got a great balance now with being an assistant manager, where of course it's still Saturday night kind of takes up all my thoughts, but on a Sunday I get to kind of relax and forget about it.
Yeah, lots of comments coming, of course. We'll send you all these comments if that's all right, because loads of them. He was awesome, DeCanio. One of my favourite seasons in watching Swindon for 40 years. Probably my best manager for commitment and effort. He would put in just as much work as the players and lead by example. What you said, that's true.
He'd put in more work than the players, believe me. Like, I don't know if you've heard the story that I tell. I used to be quite fascinated with him after a certain stage, so I'd ask the coaches all about him as well, like, what's he like away for us? And there was Big Dom, the goalie coach. He says, "Simon, he's crazy for football." He says, "I've never met anyone like it." He says, "After we finish at Swindon, so 4 o'clock, he lets us go home. We're not allowed to go to our own home. We'll have to go to his house." And where was it? You were staying? Silence, isn't it? Somewhere like that.
Yeah.
He said, so we'd go to his house, he'd cook, we'd watch games from the weekend of the opposition that were playing, or our games. And he said, and then at night we'd watch an Italian Serie A game. He says, and we had to watch every second. You couldn't go in the kitchen, you couldn't hang about in another room, you had to sit and watch a game. He says, one night, "I'm so tired, Simon." He said, Sampdoria are playing like Udinese or something on the TV, and he says, "I could feel my eyes start to..." He says, the next thing, the candidate was watching sleep and slaps him. "Domenico, are you not watching their goalkeeper? This is exactly what Wes does, and we need to improve it." So he was like, I've never seen a guy so obsessed. Like, I love football, mate. I'm obsessed with it, but I've never seen anybody so obsessed with football, mate. And he doesn't, not just obsessed with football in a way that he just watches it to enjoy it. He analyses everything, mate. Like the person there that said he works just as hard as the players, like double it by 10, mate. If you're talking about hard work, like I've never seen it.
Amazing. I mean, what have you taken out of that then? Well, all the managers into coaching, because there's the empathetic side, isn't there, with footballers? You've got to be, they're human beings at the end of the day. We've heard about some of your problems tonight, and you know, footballers ain't robots. It's that simple. So, what have you taken out of that?
So, what you had the great balance of is that when we get to training, I'm very much in work mode. So I'll not really chat to the boys during training about life or what's going on in their life. I'm fully focused on like the session at hand, why we're doing it, what we're doing, in early to set it up, make sure. I mean, that's the preparation, that massive thing that I've took from. Second thing in terms of football wise is doing things for a reason, like working on things Monday to Friday, what you're going to do on a Saturday. Whereas any other manager that I've had or even that I've seen up here, it's generic stuff on a Monday to Friday. It's not geared towards what you're going to do. So again, Tuesday we'll do a really hard session. Like the boys can't believe how hard their training is for part-time football. But again, I take that for him. So Tuesday's like near enough a 2-hour session. A lot focused on fitness, but fitness with football and it's not just running up down a pitch. You know, it's football movements. And then a Thursday we'll work on what the opposition do, what the strengths, what the weaknesses are, and what we're going to do to combat that. So in terms of preparation football-wise, I take everything for him, mate. Even like in terms of what we do off the ball, press, what we do when we drop into a deeper block, certain things about on the ball that I take for him. He was a bit different. He liked to play his wingers inverted, didn't he? So Matty would play on the right and be a left footer, whereas we go our wingers on their strong foot. But there's a lot of what we do on the ball that comes for him as well. And then again, in terms of off the pitch, it's about trying to make the boys realise how lucky they are. You know, he's a big thing for that. People are out working at 6 a.m. You know, and you're privileged to be what you're doing. So if we're in every single day, then dinner moan because people would kill to do that. So try to make boys see that they're lucky to be in that position and that people would love to be doing what they're doing. And then also there's that side where he was great with me in terms of family. So you always try and ask boys about their family and their kids and how things are outside. Usually after the session, that would be, or if we're talking on maybe if we beat for a beer or that. But when we're at work, it's very much kind of we're here to get better.
Where does East Kilbride get to? Do you think? What sort of level could you reach?
Well, hopefully our aim is the championship in Scotland. Like a couple of teams have done it, came through that level of football and got themselves up to the championship. We are really ambitious, like everyone at East Kilbride, which is why I love it so much. The club I was at before, it was, I don't know what I kind of slaughtered them too much, but they wouldn't be bothered if they were in the lower league for the next 20 years, whereas East Kilbride want to be in the championship and they're willing to do things that you need to do to get to the championship. So can't speak highly enough like the owners. They've been amazing with kind of left us to it, but always backed us when needed. So they want to build a new stadium if we get up into the leagues. The facilities that we've got are incredible. We do analysts, we do video, we've got a gym, we've got a physio, we've got a kit man who washes all the players' training kit, washes all the football kit. So the players want for nothing. And I think if you to get what we're asking them to get out of them, then you need to match that as well. So if we're asking them to live their lives like proper football players, then you need to treat them like proper football players, and that's why I love working at East Kilbride so much. And then obviously the guy that I'm doing it with, Mick, really ambitious guy, successful outside of football. He's got a real drive and determination to be successful, similar to myself. So really enjoying it, mate.
Having not known where Swindon was when you first joined them, now you clearly have a great affection for the club. And I guess you still look at the results now, do you?
Yeah, of course I do. Me and my boy, we're the first result we look for. We drive home for my game on a Saturday. As soon as I get in the car, I'll ask him what the Swindon result was. He loves it. I brought them down to the Port Vale game when McKirdy was kind of the main man. The home game in the playoffs took them down. So I got treated so well kind of since they've seen that. They've got a bug for it with Swindon. They've got Swindon shirts. So they're invested. Like we had our first kid while I was at Swindon, really young. Do you know what I mean? So it kind of changed their life as well in terms of the kid. That was, remember, he flung Stephen Ireland's top at his pram, and there was hunt for Stephen Ireland's jersey. So
Yes, remember that. Yeah.
my wife as well. Like she always says, we should never have left Swindon. We had such a good group of pals, good network. The fans were so nice to us. We lived 2 minutes to the county ground. We used to love that. We used to walk down to games. We used to walk up the road after games, bumping to fans, and never really had that anywhere else. Had been kind of that bond with the fans. So, and then there was obviously bad moments as well where I probably went out a wee bit too much and made an ass of myself a couple of times, but saw a part in it. But you were always kind of forgiven and accepted and just get on with it. So I had a really fun, definitely the best time of my career, 100%. In terms of my playing career, it's definitely the best time.
Well, I was trying to think of the most popular footballer at Swindon for the last 20 years, and you have to be up there. I mean, you whoever you talk to about Simon Ferry, everybody loves you. You know, it's that simple. And to get that amount of respect and admiration and is rare, isn't it, for a footballer? I think.
Like I say, I think you need to be a certain type of person to get on at Swindon. I really do. I think if there's any airs or graces about you, then the fans and the people there will see through you. Like me, the amount of people that came up were so friendly. I love that. Like other football players probably didn't enjoy that, but I loved it. I loved people coming up and talking to you, like sitting with your missus and kids, and they'd come up and speak to you about football for 10, 15 minutes. I really enjoy that interaction with people. So I found it really refreshing, and what I liked is they were always honest with you as well. You know, there's times they come up and say you were shit Saturday, which I can take. You know, as long as it's done in the right way, where they're not coming in the lambasting you, it's in a sort of jokey type of way. But even people like Jill Strange at the club, I don't know if everyone knows Jill. I mean, how she was with my missus and kids and everyone around the stadium. Kay in the office, God, I don't know what I meant. Adam Wainwright, Roger the kit man, just my type of people. You know, I just really hit it off with the majority of people there. I mean, I don't know, I could look at anyone that worked at the club that I couldn't say that I got on really well with. So that was for the kind of football staff to the people in the office to the catering staff. It just seemed to me like everyone in Swindon were the same type of people. Very humble, like to laugh. There's or graces about them, which I love that they type. It's similar to Dundee. You know, I'm from a place called Dundee, which is quite similar. Not the fanciest place in the world, but majority of people are really nice. So I loved it. I really did. I couldn't speak highly enough about it. And it's probably the only place that I've played with that I've been back now 5 or 6 times. Even the guys that worked in Fratello's still speak to them. Ricky that owns it, Big Attilio, the waiter, come down every couple of years and we'll sit and get a pint and have a chat about the old days. So great town. Like I say, I probably got to know so many people because in so many bars. Which is probably a bad thing, but again, even I don't know if it's because the players that I played with there, but even guys like Luke Rooney, like similar guy to myself, like a London Cockney boy, would speak to anybody. Joe De Vera, Alan McCormick, Dubliner was the same. Matty Ritchie, James Collins, still speak to all these guys. Gary Roberts, seen about 3 weeks ago. Although he never had a great time at Swindon, he did love his time there. Tommy Miller, still speak to. God, there's so many. Adam Rooney, still speak to. So I think that tells you everything, doesn't it? Matt Ritchie spoke to us about 2 weeks ago, actually. I spoke to Matt a couple of weeks ago. He watched the Bullard thing, so he gave us a wee message. Great to see him doing so well as well. So, great times.
What a career he's had. I always remember he's saying to me, I said, what's Di Canio done for you? He said he's changed his career. He's like you. He changed his career. And look what happened to him.
It stuck with Matty, but you know what I mean? That was a good thing with Matty. Like, can't speak highly enough of Matty because I'd probably be the one that would give him the most stick at the time for being busy. You know, saying, "Oh, why are you not coming out with the boys? Why are you not having a drink? Why are you getting an extra massage? Why are you doing extra in the gym?" But Matty was just so strong and so self kind of motivated. Di Canio did change him, but then he kept it up himself. Whereas I always needed somebody to be there to continually remind us, to continually push us. Matty found that within himself, and he was one guy that would never ever kind of fought a peer pressure, which. Now you're older, you've got so much admiration for. Because I wish I had a bit of that when I was his age.
Yeah, it's interesting. Got one question here which says, "Oh, there's loads of them. Football needs more Simon Ferry," says Carol. Good times. Wish it was like that now, says Nick. Incredible memories. What a great chat and wonderful stories. And with Simon, who will always be fondly remembered. Football Phil misses you, said Bradley.
Even there, like I got so like I thought that sort of character was amazing. Like other guys would maybe think he was annoying, or I just loved it. I just loved it. There was this kind of out there character that no matter what if you parked your car, he would be standing at your window. I heard you've got a Veruca today. I heard you ain't playing because you've got a Veruca.
He's still there, thank
I
goodness.
used to always go. Joe De Vera was quite not nervous, but he wasn't the most outgoing guy. Lovely guy if you got to know him, but to kind of stranger, he was a bit awkward. And I always used to say, if I'll go and speak to Joe De Vera, he's got a really tight hamstring. You just see Phil marching. What's up with your hamstring then, Joe? And Joe wouldn't have a clue what to say to him, but football for what a hero, man. He actually gave my missus the finger at the Magic Roundabout. My missus cut out in front of her. It was his pal, and Phil was in the passenger seat. My missus cut out in front of him, and he just gave her one of them in the car, and I was in tears of laughter, man. What a guy.
Oh, amazing. And this is from Mark. Do you feel more committed and focused as a coach rather than a player? You said that there were times in your career when you weren't focused, but I guess as a coach you kind of have to be, because you are now talking to players, like you've said, you're putting them through this hard work on Tuesday and things like that. So are you more focused now?
100%. Like you've just got it spot on. But like football players will take in your every word. So if you're not prepared of what you're going to say, what you're going to present, how you're going to present it, the tone you're going to use, then they'll see through it. So everything needs to be absolutely spot on. Because I was the worst for it. Football players will always use excuses, mate. So if you give them an excuse that we're underprepared, then they'll use it, mate. And ultimately, what the environment we try to create is that the players go on the pitch with no excuses. That they've got the best, like I said, the best of facilities, the best of gear, and then they've got the information based on what we're going to do. They've got the information based on what they're going to do. So it's up to them then. On a Saturday, it's up to them to go and perform. So that's how we try to work. So yeah, every session's thought out, every session's drawn out, every number before we go up. What colour of bibs they're going to wear, who's going to wear what colour, where they're going to stand. That's all thought out before we go up. It's never just walking on a training pitch and flinging anything on, mate. So.
Mitch says, "Oh, Simon, you were so lovely to myself and my daughters when we met you outside the Vale game. They did come away and say, 'What did he say, Mum?' We didn't understand a word he said. Never change."
Again, I remember coming down to the Port Vale game, and I was actually surprised at how many people remembered and recognised it. So again, I didn't think I'd get that at any other club that I've played it. So no, it's amazing to see it.
Well, look, you know that whenever you come down to the county ground, come and see us. You're welcome, always welcome. You know that, don't you? So please come and see us and let us know you're coming, because we'd love to see you.
The problem, obviously, just now, we do a lot more, but we play Saturdays, obviously.
Yeah, obviously. Yeah.
Hopefully, well, it doesn't look like it's going to be this season, but if you get to the playoffs again, whereas the season goes longer, then I could maybe get done. But obviously, I don't think it's going to be this season, is it?
No. I love your honesty, says Mark. It's challenging times down here at the moment, but listening to you has put a smile on many of our faces. So there you go. It's been great, Simon. I'm going to let you know because I know it's your only night off, but you're welcome on here anytime. You know that, don't you? Because we love hearing from you. We love talking to you. It's fabulous. So thank you.
Anytime you want us on, mate, just give us a text. Any Monday is good for me. I'll jump back on, no problem.
Brilliant. There you are, Chris.
Absolute star. What fabulous stories. We always love listening to you, Simon. So, but we'll be in contact. But
thanks, pal. It's great. He's doing as well. He's still doing this after all these years. Incredible what he's doing. The kind of output he's gave the fans as well. It's invaluable, isn't it? Like, these are the heart and soul of the club. I know Fabian down there, Vic, how much you've done, and I thought you were a great person down there as well. So anything you need, mate. People don't know you came and picked me up for the airport, stuff like that. You know,
that's one of the best.
I didn't petrol money either, which is very tight for me, mate. I'm sorry. I was skinny at that time. That was rock bottom.
That's one of the best car journeys I've ever had. I have to tell you, it was a good
one.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, Simon, for giving us your time.
No worries.
Don't go away. Stay where you are. We'll just finish off and then we'll have a chat afterwards. Thank you very much, everybody. I'm sorry about the sound. I don't know why it's what's happening tonight, but sorry about that. We will be back next Monday. It'll be on the Monday night panel, and so we'll see you soon. Bye.